The Sacrament of Marriage, Part 1. Marriage is a covenant by which a man and a woman establish between themselves a partnership of the whole life. By its very own nature, it is ordered to the well-being of the spouses and to the procreation and upbringing of children. This partnership between the baptized has been raised by Christ the Lord to the dignity of a sacrament. 1. Origin of Sacrament of Marriage. The Catholic Church teaches that God Himself is the author of marriage. The Bible begins with the creation of man and woman in the image and likeness of God, Genesis 1:26-27, and concludes with a vision of the wedding feast of the Lamb, Revelation 19:7-9. Through marriage a man and a woman become one flesh, signifying the unbreakable union, Genesis 2:24, Matthew 19:6. The first inclusion of marriage among the 7 sacraments occurred at the Council of Verona in 1118. 2. Nature of Christian marriage. A man and a woman establish between themselves a partnership of the whole life by means of a matrimonial covenant. 2.1. Marriage as a contract and covenant. Marriage is both a contract and a covenant. The concept of marriage as a contract emphasizes, 1. The secular and human nature of marriage, natural and social institution, and 2. Mutual rights and obligations of the spouses. The concept of marriage as a covenant serves to broaden and enrich the concept of Christian marriage by linking it to, 1. The covenant between God and His people. 2. The Pauline image of the Church as the spouse of Christ. Marriage symbolizes the union of Christ and the Church, Ephesians 5:21-25, and 3. The dimension of marriage as an intimate sharing of life and love. 2.2 Marriage as a sacrament. Marriage has existed as a natural and social institution, although sacred, from the very beginning of creation. It is Jesus who elevated it to the dignity of a sacrament. In His presence at the wedding at Cana in Galilee, the Church sees the confirmation of the goodness of marriage and the proclamation that henceforth marriage will be an efficacious sign of Christ's presence and hence a sacrament. 2.3 Marriage as partnership for the whole life. In marriage, the partners establish between themselves a partnership of the whole life. Canon 1055. In concrete terms, the partnership of the whole life means that the destinies of the partners are inseparably intertwined in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. Only the death of one of the spouses or a decree of annulment or dissolution of the marital bond by a competent ecclesiastical authority can terminate the partnership. 2.4 Ends of marriage. The ends of marriage are, 1. Good of the spouses, conjugal love and companionship, 2. Procreation and upbringing of the children, becoming co-creators with God. Since the achievement of the ends of marriage is somewhat beyond the power of the spouses, the failure to attain them does not in itself affect the validity of marriage. 2.5 Properties of marriage. Properties means the qualities that flow from the very nature of marriage itself, so that without them there can never be a real marriage. The essential properties of marriage are: A. Unity. Unity signifies exclusivity of marriage bond, i.e., sacrament of marriage excludes polygamy or polyandry. To include anyone else within this privileged sphere of marital intimacy violates the unity proper to marriage. Christ totally and undividedly gives Himself to the Church, the same should happen between spouses. B. Indissolubility. Man must not separate what God has joined together. Mark 10:9. A sacramental marriage that has been validly contracted and subsequently consummated is absolutely indissoluble. 3. Circumstances under which a marriage is invalidly celebrated. 1. If one or both spouses did not freely and willingly give marriage consent. 2. If it is contracted by persons who lack sufficient use of reason, who suffer from a grave defect of discretion of judgment concerning the essential matrimonial rights and duties. 3. If it is contracted by persons who are ignorant that marriage is a permanent partnership between man and woman. 4. If error concerning a person occurs. This happens when the contracting party, wanting to marry a determined person, marries someone else by mistake. 5. If error concerning a quality of the partner occurs. A quality of person could be moral, physical, social, religious, or legal in nature. 6. If a party is manipulated to enter to marriage by the other party or third person by deliberately concealing a disruptive quality. 7. If the one who contracts marriage is in error about the unity, indissolubility, or sacramental dignity of marriage. 8. If one or both parties who contract a marriage deliberately exclude marriage itself or some essential element or property of marriage. 9. If a person is compelled to choose marriage by force or grave fear which is inflicted from without. 10. If the contracting person suffers one of the following impediments: a. Below the age of 18 years. b. Impotence. Inability to have the marital act on the part of the man or the woman. c. Prior valid marriage bond. This impediment ceases either with the death of one of the spouses or by the dissolution or annulment of the bond of marriage. d. Disparity of religion or denomination. If one marries a non-Christian or a non-Catholic, permission from the bishop must be procured. e. Holy orders. A deacon, priest and bishop invalidly attempts marriage unless he receives dispensation from the Pope. f. Perpetual vow of chastity. Those bound by a public perpetual vow of chastity in religious institutes, for example, nuns, brothers, religious priests. g. Abduction. A man who abducts or detains a woman for the purpose of marriage cannot validly marry her. h. Crime. Anyone who, with a view to entering marriage, causes the death of one's own spouse or the spouse of an intended marriage partner, or conspires with that person to kill the spouse of one of them. I. Consanguinity. This is the blood relationship between persons who descend, either legitimately or illegitimately, from a common ancestor. For example, first cousin, second cousin or even third cousin. End of Part 1. Part 2 of the topic, The Sacrament of Marriage, will be screened on 8th of January 2022.